Hello and welcome to the Casually Profound podcast. My name is Lauren McLean and I'm here to bring you conversations with friends about how we apply spiritual concepts into our everyday lives. I'm joined today by Pete Martossi, who I know through the internet. We're internet friends. We found each other on Instagram a little while ago and instantly were like, you're the person. I don't know what you're the person for yet, but you're the person. And so we've been spamming each other on Instagram for a while, and so that naturally led to wanting to have a longer conversation about mediumship and about our gifts, if you would call them that, for this world and that kind of thing. I like calling them gifts or superpowers sometimes. Anyways, so hello and welcome, Pete. Thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, great. And would you like to tell us a little bit about how you would describe the work that you do and what you do in the spiritual realm, but also like in life? What do you do with your life, Pete?
Well, it's interesting. We were just talking about disagreeableness, and I always try to tell people that it's not a gift, and that it's everybody has an ability to communicate with spirit. It's not special, and that it's more of it can be a learned technique. Obviously, like anything in the world, some people are more naturally talented than others. But it's like I always say, I may play in the NFL, but everybody could throw a football. It's like there's always God-given special abilities, but it can be practiced and learned, and that's kind of what I do. I mean, I do, obviously one-on-one mediumship sessions, but I would say my favorite thing to do is teach. Teach people how to connect to spirit, because I know how much it changed my life, and kind of saved me. That I want everybody to feel that, and it's, it's easy. It's not complex. It's not, all new age, woo-woo stuff. It's very like simple, practical, and easy.
So what makes it easy for you? How do you know that it's easy?
Just from like years of, I've kind of been doing this type of stuff, I guess, since I was a kid. I was always into like the occult and different things, reading books, obviously. And then I had experiences that kind of, when I was younger, that kind of shocked me and scared me, and I kind of blocked it for a while. And then in my 20s, my grandmother died, and she started coming to me, and I started having like, significant experiences that would like shift my perspective. And, I've been practicing. I'm going to turn 40 this year, which is scary, but, and I've been doing this probably since my early 20s. And I found kind of like, I broke down like how to explain what to do and like how I receive information in, I think, a very simple way. And, I think it's just an easy thing. I think once people I think the problem with most people is they don't understand that they're receiving information. It's like anything in this reality. It's like we're programmed by TV and culture to have an expectation of something. So when you don't receive it that way, you don't, it's like people are receiving stuff and they don't even know they're receiving stuff. They have to know where to look. People see the movies and think, oh, if I'm a medium, I have like 100 spirits around me, and there's like, it's always like a murder case to solve and stuff like that. It's not, it's very like simple. And I think like people don't realize even basic creative things are really just inspiration from spirit, whether it's singing, painting, whatever, So I think the biggest misconception is like understanding how to receive information or where to even look for information,
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you. I had a different guest on that I was talking with the other day, and he was like, yeah, you were just talking about stuff. And I didn't even know that word meant that. And I was probably just talking about like receiving a message or receiving a knowing or different things like that. And he's like, well, what is that like? It's been a minute since I've had to answer a question like that. And I was like, well, it's just, you just hear it in your head. Like it's like in the choir, like of thoughts, like but it has a different tone. It's a slightly different place. Like it's a different thing. One of the most helpful little like tidbits that I got, a couple years ago was from Phil Goodlife in one of his videos where he'd said, your angels are literally the voices in your head. And I was like, duh. Like that makes so much more sense to have it phrased like that. It's just like the light bulb went off. So to go back to something that you said at the beginning about how you think that it's not a gift, I completely agree with you in the sense that everybody has this ability. Like the hardware exists in every single body. Abso-fucking-lutely. And it's about getting the right software installed to like interface with it and be able to understand what the fuck's going on. Like literally to understand what the voice in your head is telling you, if it's your own voice or Sally who's come for some help or, that kind of thing. Right. And, one of the things that really set me free might sound contrived, but I would literally use those words because growing up, like I grew up in a family of mediums. And so like my mom always talked about how she would have people come visit her. And she, when she was young, like a teenager, had an experience that was like so scary to her. They came through the sense of smell. And it was a really strong component of when the spirit showed up with her. So she literally shut her entire sense of smell off. She has no ability to smell anything.
Really?
Yeah. Other than when she was pregnant with me, she had a sense of smell. But other than that, she can kind of tell when she's smelling gasoline, and that's about it. And so, coming from a family and like my mom's grandma on the maternal side was also like a well-known like tea leaf reader and all that kind of thing. And so, but none of us were like kind of allowed to talk about this growing up. Everybody was a little bit scared of it. And we were all very like Christian at the time. And so it's very easy to be like, oh, that's just the Holy Spirit. Or like, oh, that's just an angel or that kind of thing. And so it's so easy to like give it a label and move on with your life. Right. And not think about it. And so, when I got into my teenage years, things were getting a little hairier and in the spirit realm, if you will. And so I had a mentor at the time who was helping me deal with stuff. But when I was 19, there was a boyfriend that I was head over heels for, totally in love with, probably still in love with, whatever. And I just felt like I needed to tell him, like, this was a really important part of me that I, like, for the first time was wanting to share with someone. I was fucking scared shitless because, like, to go up to a person that you've known for only a couple months and be like, yeah, I talk to dead people on casually. That's terrifying at a young age, particularly growing up with this whole, like, secrecy about it.
Yeah.
And when I told him, he was just like, cool, do you have any other superpowers I should know about? What? Like, how he was just so chill about it. And so from then I was really able to see it as a gift. Cause prior to that, I literally had one of my friends, run away from me screaming and crying, screaming and crying because she had taken me to a Bible study with her and, I had seen Jesus, like Jesus showed up to like chill with the message. And I was like, that's cool. Jesus is fun to like hang out with in the spirit realm. And, so I was telling her all about this and like the different stuff that was like going along with the messages. And it was like a really beautiful experience. And on like the 5-minute drive home to drop her off. Yeah. By the time we got home, she was literally crying and running into the house and was like so upset. I'm like, I'm literally going along with what you're saying. Like, I'm literally agreeing with you. And so then to have this guy be like, yeah, naturally, of course, it just like flipped that switch. And so I totally agree with you. And I think it's just more fun. I think it's just more fun to call it a gift. And I love being able to do that.
Well, I just say, the thing that bothers me about people saying it a gift, because you could look at it as like, it's a gift, like it's, it's like a present, like, it's a gift to be able to like communicate. But I mean, I just think there's a lot of people with like social media, and it's like they get this like spiritual ego about it. Like, you need to hear from me. Like, you know, like, so that's why I feel like the goal for me is to normalize it.
Yeah.
So if like we go saying it's a gift, then people think it's like, it's unattainable, or it's not,
yeah.
You know, like the average person might not find it like they could grasp it if it's a gift, you know, like, oh, this person's special because they can do it. That's the only thing, like, because I want everybody to be able to be like, oh, I can talk to my grandma who's dead.
Yeah.
You know, like, or, you know, and be able to feel like, you know, somebody who lost their child, they can like try to reconnect, you know, and that's where the power comes in, because it's like, probably the biggest thing for everybody is like their fear of like death or unknown. So it's like, if you can have some grasp of like God, knowing that there's at least something after this, whether, you know, so it's like, I think it really helped me find peace and stuff like that, because, you know, I witnessed my grandmother die, or I was with my aunt when she passed, like, just, you know, it lets you know that it's going to be okay. Whatever that means. I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
You know, so
yeah,
that's why I just try to like normalizing it.
Well, I think that social media, and with the rise of like spiritual influencers on social media, everybody's taking a marketing tack with getting attention. And the inherent bias in that is that you have to build credibility. And in the spiritual arena, credibility comes from having the most pure, direct connection to whatever you're channeling, whether that be, you know, Source or the Pleiadians, or like your grandma, like that kind of thing. And so it's the same way as like somebody needs a master's degree in order to teach at a university, that kind of thing, right? Like the credibility in an academic setting comes from the piece of paper saying you've donated $200,000 in like 7 years of your life to something. Where, and then in the spiritual community, the equivalent is this posturing to say, I have the best, purest, cleanest, most amazing high definition connection, and you should trust me because of that. And I like the normalization process, I think, is so much, I mean, the method that you're doing with it, I'm sure, is great. I think like, right, that it's just getting that message out of like, I think I'm agreeing with you. Getting that message out of like, your connection can be messy, and it can be like it can take time to develop, and everybody can have it. And it doesn't always look like this beautiful, wonderful ashram in the woods kind of thing. It's also like, for me, when I'm driving down a road and like I get stopped by a train, that is invariably a spirit coming to me. It's one of my uncles is like invariably there and coming to me and talking with me, that kind of thing. And it's these really, really, really simple things that can bring that through.
Yeah, but the thing, like, this is a thing a lot of people don't understand. Like, if I'm doing a reading, I don't have anything to do with what comes through.
Mm-hmm.
It has nothing to do with me. It has to do with you. Like, if I'm reading you, you're attracting your experience, you know? And it's so, like, the funniest thing is, like, to me, it's like so obvious sometimes, because like I do messages on TikTok and stuff, and like, I randomly just pick people and stuff like that. But it's like, I'll pick people, and it's like, if somebody's just like sincerely wanting to hear, the message just like flows through me. And then like, you'll get people who are like, nobody's ever able to read me, like, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like I want to be like, what do you think's going to happen from you starting your intention with, nobody can read me? What do you think? Like, that's why I always say it's not special. It doesn't have to do with me. It has to do with who's ever seeking it, you know? Mm-hmm. I'm just like the vessel that it comes through, but it has nothing to do with me. It comes from them, you know? I'm not doing anything, you know? And that's like the whole thing with like people saying they're better or worse. It has nothing to do with you. It has to do with the person seeking the message. It all comes from spirit. It doesn't come from me. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know? So I just, say what I always tell people, like, I just say what I get. I don't care anymore. I'm at a point where I would say the last 5 years, I've really like found my balance and like stability with stuff where I'm just like, I don't care what I'm saying. I'm just telling you what I'm getting.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could tell me it means nothing. I feel something, and this is what I say. Like, some people might get turned off by the fact that I don't give a shit, but I don't. Because, like, as soon as you start caring, you start trying to pull stuff, and it's not like a sincere, authentic message. The most authentic message is when I don't give a shit at all because I'm not judging what's coming to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
So that's why I always say what I get, because sometimes I just get weird stuff and it winds up making sense, you know? But who knows?
Absolutely. That was my biggest learning in the last few years here. I read the Akashic Records, and I did the course from my one mentor to read them several years ago, like 6 or 7 years ago, and then fucked around and didn't do it with integrity and didn't listen to what I was taught and that kind of thing. And so I wasn't able to read them for many, many years. And I redid the course last year, and was able to really sink into it and was able to really be present with it and have integrity with it and take my time with it. And yeah, the biggest lesson was you always like verbatim pass it through exactly what's coming through, exactly is what you write down. And, sometimes it's fucking scary because it's like, this doesn't feel impactful enough. This doesn't feel whatever. And so, but it's always that like, nope, that voice needs to shut up because this has to come through. And like, you just have to deal. It's a very interesting ride for the ego. I found to be like tough. It doesn't feel like it's impactful enough. Tough. Like that feels like it's too weird. Suck it up. Cause like, this is what you get to say now.
No, yeah, that's what it's like you don't want to get in the way. I mean, there's like, I always think of like, there's this medicine man in spirit that I work with, Fool's Crow. He was like a Lakota medicine man. And he tells this story about being like the hollow bone. Like, a lot, like you clear yourself out and you keep healing yourself and clearing yourself out so that nothing's in the way, so the divine can just flow through you. And that's the goal, is as a healer or whatever you want to call yourself, to bring through what they want to bring through and just not judge it and not, that's all you can do. That's the real goal. But when you, start getting into like, oh, how great of a reader and gifted I am, it's like, there's no way you can be fully authentic because you're trying to live up to a standard that you can't control. But
how have you found teaching that to other people? Like what have you seen as you're teaching that concept to other people?
I just, I try to, like I say, like, I don't know who said this, but there was somebody said, a quote is like, if you can't explain it easily, you don't understand it enough, so I try to just like make everything super simple and try to make it like almost like foolproof. And, there's certain hurdles, it's like a big thing that people don't understand is like the more you work with spirit, the more things are going to come up, like your trauma and stuff, because, when you connect to spirit, your vibration raises. So if your vibration is raising all the time because you're doing the work, all the stuff that's lower, lower vibration has to come up. So like I think a lot of people misunderstand like what the dark night of the soul is in a sense, because they think it's like almost like a test, but it's not a test. It's just like you have to like process your shit, you got to process your trauma and stuff like that. So what happens is when this you're an energy body essentially. So like if you're in high vibration, all this stuff starts coming up. It has to be processed on different layers. It's not just like, oh, it's up. You know, it kind of has to manifest in your reality. So you'll start having like a life of turmoil. You know, typically it's like 2 years, maybe a little longer, depending on how much, you know, trauma you have, where like you're really in the shit. You know, like there's a time where you're probably thinking you're crazy or you're schizophrenic. Like because there's so many things like manifesting, because it's like, you got to realize everything works through vibration. So if you're in high vibration, you attract things faster. So if you're working on that high vibration and then all the shit's coming out at the same time, it's like everything is kind of becoming this like super shit storm, you know? So it's like, I think a lot of people they just think it's like, you know, you go on social media and you have people who don't really understand. They're trying to explain it. And to me, it's very like simple, like physics in a way, or law of attraction. It's like, so I think working your way through that is tough, you know? And I feel like some people, I would say the biggest issues, I would say like understanding like protection is a big thing. And I'm not trying to like promote like, oh, you got to be scared of all this stuff. But I'm saying like, I think a lot of people kind of get taboo when it comes to like protection, or they're like super overprotected and they're like nervous. You know, you got to kind of find a balance, and you got to understand that like a big thing that people don't understand is like that, you know, everything you're experiencing is because of you. So like if you're, you know, you have these like spiritual, I'm talking a lot of shit about spiritual accounts. I'm sorry. But like,
how better.
No, I just like, I feel like a lot of people, you know, it's like they talk about all these, like how other people are acting, say like narcissist is a big keyword for people, or I'm an empath. So it's like the shadow aspect of the empath is the victim, you know? And it's like all these things, but there's nobody just saying that it's, you know, you're responsible. You know, like that narcissist, yeah, they're a horrible person maybe, but you attracted them. You know, there's something there. There's a lesson or whatever. And I'm not saying like people deserve to have a narcissist or anything, but it's like there's a lot of people pointing fingers at other people instead of like looking at, you know, why am I experiencing this? You know, like there's a lesson, you know, when this dark night of the soul starts happening and you like have this upheaval of like lower vibrational, you know, energies, and you're like attracting these experiences. It's like there's something there. You have to learn to like process, or you have to understand, you know? I mean, that's my opinion. Doesn't mean I'm right, you know?
Yeah. I mean, everything in my experience would lead me to believe with you. And I find it interesting. I have friends in this group, and I know that there is like a thought group as well that, would be highly offended by this concept that like everything is a lesson and that you've attracted these things to you. And I think it is on that premise of like, does that mean I deserve bad things to happen to me? I think it really isn't that people think that that's what this is saying. But I think also like when you look at things through the lens of like karma, it's just like, well, obviously you would need stuff to happen to like spur you along. But I mean, even if you look at something kind of a more cellular level, like when you look at things like homeostasis, like something is always interacting with that is you're adjusting to your homeostasis. So like if a narcissist is coming in, there's a balance somewhere else that is leveling out, right? That yes, you need to learn something, and yes, you need to go through lessons. And I totally believe in that. Like you go through lessons, you go through the spiral of life, and you peel off different layers, and you learn who you are on different levels as you go through these lessons. But like, I don't know. I think that people are afraid of learning lessons. I think that there's like, there's like a fear of doing a hard lesson or having a hard thing show up in life that you learn from. I think there's some kind of fear around that, which
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think I would say, probably the best thing to solve everything I mean, this is a bold statement, but the best thing to solve everything in this world is for people to be more self-reliant, in all aspects. It's like, if you can, go to God, if you seek God by yourself and find that connection yourself, you don't need a church,
because you see it everywhere.
But it's like, I think the big thing is like responsibility. People don't want to take the responsibility. Oh, I'll just go to church, like, oh, then I did my thing, or like even food, your diet, everything. It's like, it's easy to just go eat fast food. It takes time to go eat your food, or even like growing your own food, hunting, it's like all those things take so much effort. It's easy to just be like, oh, I'll go get a burger somewhere, So it's like, I think self-reliance is a big thing in all aspects. And I think it just takes a lot of energy and responsibility, but people don't realize it's like the process of being self-reliant is more rewarding than anything.
Yes, I was literally just about to say that, because I think there is a distorted idea out there of what it means to take responsibility for yourself and to take responsibility for your own actions, as if it's some kind of chore, or as if it's some kind of like, I don't know how to, like, as if it's a bad thing that you would want to take responsibility for yourself and that you would want to seek after this type of independence. But the thing is like, it's so joyful. It's so, there's so much joy in it, because it really is about enjoying being with yourself and like within your own mind and body and heart and that kind of thing. Right. And like, so even when it comes to food, when it comes to like what you're consuming on every level and that kind of thing, right? And what you're putting out into the world, that whole seeking God, like when you're right with yourself, it's so much easier to connect with people, and it's so much easier to like be in community then, in my mind.
And it feels good.
Mm-hmm.
Like being outside, like if you're growing your own food, or even if you have like a garden, you know how good it feels to like be in the earth, and like, people don't remember it because they're so used, like everything's so quick now, but to like actually enjoy yourself and take the time to do things, I don't know. I think it's, and in the end, it's like, you're so much more empowered, like, I know I could have my connection with spirit anytime. Like, I couldn't imagine going and seeking it outside of myself, But I'm here now. I wasn't always here, and it takes time to get there, and it takes, effort and, discipline and stuff like that. But, you're so much more, I don't know, I'm so much more at peace.
I agree with you. I think the time that it takes to really settle into that is daunting to lots of people. Like, I don't know, like you said, it takes the dark night of the soul as you're sorting through all your major stuff. Like that first level kind of thing it's long. It took me like 3 years, probably 4.
Yeah.
To like actually be like, oh, okay. Like I get it now. Thank you. Right.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
No, I mean, I would say like really the last 5 years I've found like balance out of like 20,
Yes.
So like, I know, I understand, like, and then people like think I'm so like calm and mellow and stuff like that. Like, I've always been here, but like, I mean, I'm a mellow person in general, but it's like, there's always been like it's much more internal. Like people can't tell what I'm going through.
Yes.
Like, so I'm just that person. Like, I don't show my emotions that much, so it's like people just think I was automatically here. It took therapy. It took everything, looking at myself, looking at my family, looking at my programming, my culture, my society, and a lot of, pain and suffering, but feels good now.
Yeah. So for everybody who thinks that it's a gift to have this like spiritual ability developed and honed, like here's all your pain and suffering, enjoy it. Right.
Yeah, no, I know. I mean, and it's like, but like to honor that is like, I don't think I could get here without going through that, and at the time when you're going through it, it's like, holy shit, like I'm not going to make it, like there was times where I was so like super open and like feeling everything around me, from the trees to the plants to the animal, and like super aware. And like I used to work in Manhattan and go on, the subways and stuff, like being an empath.
Could be insane.
Yeah, I would feel like I would literally feel at least 20 spirits come to me on a like 5-minute subway ride, talking to me and stuff like that. And I would just be like taking it on because as an empath, I'm a feeler in general. Like that's, I would say, my strongest ability when it comes to like mediumship. So like I would be, taking it on, not knowing my boundaries, like feeling like I have to feel it, or I have to like suffer and stuff like that. And it would be so overwhelming. And I'd go home and I just like I had like a healing room. I would just lay on there and just like pray and, ask for healing and like try to clear stuff out of me. It was.
And it's such a roller coaster, right? Like it feels like you're on a rabbit wheel of like, I'm supposed to be so open, and I'm like this, like you're supposed to be so open, but then you come home feeling like a bag of shit, and it's like, where is the balance, right?
Yeah. Well, I think I would say one of my biggest issues has always been like seeking intensity, like addicted to like intense experiences. And well, like it really kind of started because I do construction. I do underground tunnels for my day job. And like I would always like attract people with addictions. So I always looked at that, like, why do I always attract that? And then it clicked that I'm like, I have an addiction, like even if it's spiritual, it's like I always seeked like an intense experience. So then like if I'm starting to open up, what do you think is going to happen? I'm going to have the most intense opening possible, and then, you have to look at that. Like, why am I doing this? Like, what am I missing? And I would say one of my biggest things that I had to work through, and I'm still working through it, is like never enoughness, like always wanting more, never settling. That's kind of like my energy. I'm always like, only now I'm kind of like slowing down a little bit, but like I would work 20 hours a day, do spiritual stuff. Like I would, nonstop. So, but it's just, you have to kind of dissect things and like look at yourself, and really, that's why when people dismiss looking at themselves, it's like, everything stems from the self. Everything happening in your reality is a reflection of yourself. So all those shitty people, it's something that you have to like kind of work through and see like what's going on with you, that, you're always experiencing this. Because you'll see the threads when you really start to look back. You'll see like the common threads of people in your life who you're like I always used to look at like, I'm blue collar, and I would always find out like people's astrology signs that I'm working with, just to see like the common thread and like why am I attracting this? What do I need to learn from this person? Like I kind of actually recently just broke it. I would say like the last job I was on, I always had like a Gemini that was with me. And I always like just didn't get, like they were like kind of took advantage of me and stuff like that. And I had weak boundaries with them. And it only till I realized the whole thing with addiction, because actually all of them had addiction issues too. And it was this like codependency thing too as well. And all of a sudden I'm not attracted. Like the next job I go to, there's no Geminis. And it's like, after like 3 jobs of like having a Gemini, I know I'm crazy for thinking like that, but like,
no, I don't think so.
And I always have a Leo who's like my right hand person.
Yes.
Because they're like my counterbalance.
Yes.
As an Aquarius.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm always like, fuck it, do whatever, you know, because I'm very like that. And they're always like very like rules, structured, like roles. Like, no, you can't do that. And they're like the person who like kind of keeps me in check, you know?
Yep.
And I always go to them for, even my best friend growing up was a Leo.
Mm-hmm.
And
my mom was a Leo.
My mom's a Leo
or
too.
Is a Leo.
Yeah.
Oh, no way. Okay, so you'll enjoy this. My mom's a Leo. I'm an Aquarius sun, a Leo moon, and a Virgo rising.
Wow. What's your dad?
Interesting place. My dad's an Aquarius.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, my mom, actually, I've just been revisiting my lessons with my mom recently. Mm-hmm. But my mom's a Leo and my dad's a Taurus. And,
okay.
And my wife's a Taurus and my daughter's a Taurus. So I think Taurus might be a lesson. But
to find security and to groundedness and that rootedness, right?
Yeah, I don't know though, because like my wife is very like chill for a Taurus. I feel like a lot of them are like, my dad tries to act like a big tough like Italian old school, but he's very like neurotic with things. And a lot of Tauruses I know are kind of neurotic, and I don't feel that from my wife, you know. But in terms of like the Leo with my mom would drive me absolutely nuts, because it's very like, you know, they're very rule-based, role-based. Like, oh, you're my son, you're my daughter, this is how you're supposed to be. You're not supposed to be like that. And like 100%. They'll make, you know, like even like I have my daughter in wrestling because she loves wrestling and she's awesome at it. She's
good.
I'm not just saying it because she's my daughter. She's naturally gifted. Like she's beating up boys bigger than her.
Amazing.
And I love it. I absolutely love it. She loves it. She looks forward to it. And it's like, my mom will be like, she's a girl. She's not supposed to wrestle. Like, and my thing is like, you know, if she loves it and she's happy, I don't care what she does, you know, as long as she's happy, you know, that's just like a little tidbit. But like, you know, like I always had this role and her family had this role in life. And it's like, I'm very like anti that, like free flow, do whatever you want, like do what makes you happy. And it's very difficult for me, you know, it's like, you know, finding that balance. But hopefully, I don't know, maybe you got some tips for dealing with the Leo mom.
I don't know that I have any advice. My strategy has been to like peace out when it gets too hard. And so which creates its own set of problems.
I'm the same way. I'm the same way, but like, it's like part of me wants to like face that, you know, like why am I like, you know, this goes back to kind of everything we're talking about. Like everybody has triggers, you know, but a trigger is really what, like when you get triggered, you really like, that's when I'm like, oh, wow, what is going on? That's like really pissing me off. Like, why is it pissing me off? You know, is it just like, you know, I'm very, you know, Aquarius are very like freedom driven. So when somebody tries to put you in like a box, it's like very like, you know, like I push back. Like I'm very like I'm a reader. I feel stuff. I know when things are bothering, like how to pick people apart if I have to. I don't like doing it, but you know, if I have to, or I feel like backed into a corner, I can antagonize anybody. And you know, I've worked on that. Like I know that I like to like, if somebody's pushing me, I like pushing back, and but it doesn't feel good in the end. You know, like you feel like to me, like I wanna love my mom fully and accept her. but it's hard.
Yes. I think that's a really interesting point, because I have definitely in the past tried to figure out the game. You know what I mean? And like, when she takes a step, what's my counter step? And like, how do I navigate with this? What's the move? Like, and to be, and so I kind of end up in a constant state of like surveillance and analysis of like, what is her deal? And like, how do I find safety in, you know, in this dynamic, basically, is what the like bottom line is. And, realizing, so my mom and I were in a really bad spot in like 2017. And then in early 2018, I was kind of like, okay, no, I'm going to sink into this. We'll like figure this out. I'm in the wrong. We'll figure this out. I ended up moving in with her in 2020 and lived with her for like 2 years. Which like, I have no idea how that worked, because it did. We lived together really, really, really well. And if you would have told me when I was younger that I would be living with my mom for 2 years, I would have fucking laughed in your face. Cause there would be no way that we would be able to survive that, but we did. And it was good and all that kind of thing. And then one day, like the oven timer went off and it was time to go. And I was like, okay. I'm like, quit my job, packed up my things. And I was like, yeah, I'm leaving. And she's like, oh, what? And I'm like, well, it's time for me to go. And, she's like, oh, like, no, stay with me. And so the thing that I realized through that kind of big wave, I mean, obviously there's experience in life and stuff before that, but this is the most memorable wave that I've been like consciously working through, is that every time that I would try and like strategize and find the move and the counter move and like figure out what was going on, the more that it basically hurt me. And the more that I was like stuck in my mind and stuck in just a state of anxiety and like, just, it was horrible, mentally, emotionally, all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But when I did just like take that step back and be like, look, she's just going to do her thing. She's going to operate her little circus and she's going to do whatever she's going to do. And I get to just sit here and do my thing. Then it was like, oh, I can actually be around you, and I can actually accept you. I think at the end of the day, that's what it was truly just acceptance. And cause I have dreamed so many big dreams for my mom, of where she's going to take her life and how she's going to grow and develop and love and all that kind of thing. I have always had really high expectations of her, which I realize is a little bit ironic considering I'm the daughter. And so whenever I have been disappointed in my expectations of my mom, that is where my biggest hurt comes from. And as soon as I removed those expectations and was like, you just kind of start realizing like she's never going to grow. She's never going to change. She's never going to whatever. I hope she does. I hope that she blooms and blossoms and becomes this version of her that I see her as every day. I hope she does. And I get to love her whether she does or not. That has really been the place that I've been able to just be like, cool. This is my mom. Some days I still want to punch her in the face, but, I think everybody has those days with their mom, no matter how fucking enlightened you are.
No. Yeah. I mean, I'm more of like, I don't care. Like, yeah. I'm not feeding into your drama. Yes. Like sometimes drama, I feel like it's definitely a Leo thing. I know I'm judging all the Leos out there, but it's like sometimes I feel like they don't care what the drama's about. They just want you
there
like
just has
involved.
To be drama. Yes.
Like
yes.
It doesn't matter if it's good, bad, they hate you, love you. Like they just want the attention, mm-hmm. Like the drama involves them, where mm-hmm. I'm just very like, see you later, I
know. And so for myself, it was really it's been really interesting becoming an adult and individuating and that kind of thing. I feel like it's been very prolonged. So growing up where like drama was your currency for love, and that was how you got love as a kid, or how I got love as a kid. And that's how I perceive it now. As a kid, I could have never told you that was what was going on, right?
Yeah.
And so now growing up, you're like, oh, I actually don't like that. I actually want nothing to do with living like that myself. And so then as soon as I like go home or I see my it's a larger family thing. It's not just my mom. The whole family operates in that dynamic. And, it's just like, oh, dang, like, look at all of this happening. Isn't that interesting? Like, I get to just see it and not have to be part of it anymore. If that makes sense. I'm still there physically and all that kind of thing. But like now there's like a mental separation of like, it's actually not my stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. My thing is like, I don't want to, like if somebody, like why be around people who are bringing you down, like there's no, like I try to bring stuff to a relationship, a friendship, whatever. And if you're like doing the opposite, like why I have just so much going on. Like, why waste my time? Like I don't need your approval or I don't need like your verification anymore. Like I'm not a kid. So it's like, why waste your energy? Like, why be drained by an interaction you don't want anyway?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. But it's just like, for me, it's, it's probably her voice in the back of my head saying like, oh, she's your mom, like, cause it's not me, like, I don't know. Like I've come to a place in my life where I don't waste energy on people if it's not matched,
Yeah.
Cause I got too much shit to deal with,
Yes. Oh, 100%. And so I think that's where the like detachment comes from. And part of me is tracking this and be like, is this a mentally healthy approach? I don't even like, what is that? But I know that this has brought me peace is where like, yes, I'm not investing and yes, I'm not putting in the same level of, I'm matching what I'm getting. Right. And so even though I want to pour way more into the relationship, a lot of what I was wanting to pour into the relationship was my expectations of what I thought the person in the relationship should be. And so as soon as I stop pouring that down their throat and trying to shove what I want down their throat, then being able to just like match where it's at becomes so much easier. And so I don't find it draining. Like I went home for Christmas this year and, totally wasn't expecting to. Just all of a sudden the like energy opened of like, oh, you're going home for Christmas. It's like, what? Did you forget those like messages from Spirit? We're just like, excuse me? Did you get the right person for this one? Yeah. And so I followed it. I was like, all right, cool. We're going home for Christmas. All right. And so it was 900 million times easier this year than I thought it would be. Yeah. There was still definitely some unique lessons and stuff that came up from it, but they came in different forms than my family. And so I really was able to just enjoy my family and just be like, oh, you guys are here. You guys get to do your thing. You guys get to live your life. You guys get to think whatever the heck is going on in your life is good and acceptable and is working for you and that kind of thing. And I get to sit over here and think you're crazy and also just enjoy being here. Yeah. Like there's no more magic to it than that, right? Like it's just a matter of like you get to do your thing and I get to do my thing. And so we can be in the same room with somebody like stirring the drama. And I'm just like, cool, that ain't my cauldron.
Yeah, I mean, that's the goal is like that's the whole thing is like you talk about empathy, but you don't want empathy, you want compassion. Like compassion is like seeing where people are at and being like, all right, that person's not there yet and they're suffering or whatever and they're lashing out or whatever. But it's like, I still see where they're at and I love them, but I'm not getting in, like, I'm not wrapping myself in it. Where empathy is like, I'm taking it on. I feel your shit and I'm taking it on. And, that's a common misused word, and especially the spiritual world is like, you don't want to take it on.
Yes.
Because it's not your shit. I feel like I said shit a lot today.
I like it. That's all good.
I should have a better vocabulary.
You should not. This is not a place for pristine vocabularies.
Yeah, but so then, like you said, you go home for the holidays. You can see where they're at. You can love your mom for who she is, like the essence of who she is, and accept her for it. But you don't have to make it you. You don't have to take it on and, deal with all that crap.
Yeah. And so then I really get to deal with it on my own timetable, right? Because like right before we were recording, I was like getting ready and I'm just like in my head having the biggest argument with my mom. And I was like, oh, really? This is coming up now. Great. Yeah. Love this for me. And, but it means that I get to work through my side of it in my own time, in my own space. And then I get to show up to that relationship kind of already having processed the trigger, right? Yeah. So that when it comes up, I can just be like, yo, hi, and then carry on, right?
I mean, that's what I always used to do is I would write my parents letters and just burn them. And it always it let the energy kind of flow without having to interact with them, and then things would happen. Like I would write my dad the letter and then he would just start talking to me about stuff. And it would just randomly slowly come up in a more controlled atmosphere.
Exactly.
So I always use that. I was actually writing my mom a letter last night, trying to work through stuff,
So and apparently the hidden theme for this episode was mothers.
I don't know. I don't know. It's been coming up. So I just follow the flow,
I'm assuming your mom is still alive.
Yeah, she is.
Who you're talking about.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. But
I mean, you never know with a medium, right?
No. She's still alive. She's around, That's part of the reason I want to move away. Yeah. Because then it's whatever. Keep them visit once a year.
And I think that comes back to responsibility. So I had this moment a little while ago, where I was like, yes, I get to move away. I get to be I have the excuse of moving away to not have to spend a ton of time with my family. And then I realized how lame is it that I need to have an excuse when I can just take the responsibility of saying, no, thank you.
Yeah.
I would not like that today. Maybe tomorrow, but no, thank you. Right. And then as soon as I realized that I can just say no, I was like, holy fuck. Yes, that feels so much better to just be I don't want to today.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what I was kind of talking about in the beginning is you don't want to just I'm not going to see them, or you want to have that conscious awareness of deciding, yes. Me and my father kind of get along, but we've had our issues too. And it wasn't until I was no, you're not going to behave this way. Or we're not going to have a relation. Where it was a conscious choice, that's where the power came in.
Yeah.
And I felt a whole shift with my self-worth, my identity, my ability to be authentic, because I feel I always tell people the biggest work is always your parents, because that, we're their lesson and they're our lesson in a way. So it's and I feel they're always that voice in your head that's judging you about what you do, am I working hard enough? Am I doing this right? It's always them. It's not you. Your pure intentions. So I feel the more you work on that relationship, the more you move more into your authentic self because you realize you shut the voice up pretty much.
Yes.
When you take your power back, like I said with my father, listen, you're going to act this way or you're not going to come around. It took my power back of saying he's not the one who decides how I live my life. I am, So I think when you dismiss it or you're just oh, well, I'll just never go to their house. It's you don't really deal with it.
Yes.
So
it always amazes me how it layers these lessons, right? There are so many times when I am going through the shit, and then I have the epiphany. I'm whoa, that was my role in that. That was Or like, I was totally making up this story, then that's what was making me feel bad. Or like, or, you know, different things like that. I'm like, holy shit. And then, you know, 3 months later, we're kind of, it circles back, right? But it's always a different layer. It's always a little bit different shape. I remember at first when things would circle back, I'd be like, what the fuck? I dealt with this. And like, go away. And then of course you get like whipped in the face with the branch of the lesson. And it's like,
Yeah.
anyways, but then you know, as more time goes by, you know, another year, another whatever, as you are kind of looking into this and allowing the lessons to come, it's like, it's such a gift to just like get to know yourself on yet another layer and like to come into this, like, it really, I don't know, to me, it feels like a blossoming. And I always debate in my mind whether it's like an unpeeling of an onion or a blooming of a rose. It's like the same thing to me, but like how like every petal or every layer and everything, how it like slowly comes apart like that. And you get to see in the layers and like all the air and everything that gets to come through. And you get to kind of experience the beauty of things on this new level. Not that it's like better or worse or deeper or higher or whatever the fuck metric. It's just this like new breath of air into you that you're like, whoa.
Well, I think once you kind of work through it, it's like things start to shift. You get to a different layer, you know? And then like I specifically, like the last time I kind of worked through something with my father, my spiritual stuff, like the clients and everything picked up because I think I found like this new level of like authentic self and like acceptance of self. Like, oh, I'm this, you know? And it really started to flow. Like I saw a significant jump. So it's like, I always look at it because now I'm like, oh, there's something with my mom. Like there's something that I have to like kind of work through that I haven't figured out yet, but you know, that I'm working on. So, and I'm curious to see like what shifts after I work through it, you know?
Yes. I'm going to Europe next week. I'm going to spend a month in Edinburgh and then see where I end up next. Okay. And, I had this epiphany yesterday. It's kind of unfolding over a few days. I've been getting acupuncture recently, and the acupuncturist is like, oh my God, you're so stagnant. Your blood is so stagnant. Like nothing is moving in your body. And I was like, like whatever, just put the needles in. Let's fucking go. And then, it dawned on me yesterday of like, if she could stick every inch of you full with needles, and if I don't move the energy, I will always be stagnant. And so then it clicked of this, like, I'm going to Europe, I'm going to these places. I have already been on this big adventure. And it's like going to the place is not going to change the stagnancy. It's the energy that has to change.
Yeah.
And it was even something down to food. Like part of me taking responsibility for myself is in the last few months, I've been house sitting. And so I'm moving houses every 3 weeks, 2 weeks, like very often. And so there's not a lot of opportunity to like carry leftovers. I have been taking the option on cooking and cooking well for myself. So it's been a lot of like freezer pizzas, eggs, like quick stuff, easy stuff, that kind of thing, eating out. And so at first I was like, you know what? I get to do this because this other stuff is chaotic. And now I'm realizing that that's part of what's creating the stagnancy, right? Is like just accepting things that are not actually ultimately good for me and allowing them to sit at a constant level, instead of allowing myself to flow and move through these changes. And so I'm putting myself in these different physical situations as if like being somewhere new is going to change my insides. And so this big epiphany is like, oh, we get to change your insides now. It's time to move all of that, right? To actually let things flow instead of just holding and being stagnant for so long. So I'm excited to see how that shakes out.
Yeah, no, I kind of had a similar epiphany too, because I was like, my goal is kind of to get out of where I am, New York, because it's like a grind and like find a place where it's a little more rural and slower. And it's like, you know, I always think like, be happy now, you know, be in the moment now. Like, you know, when you're like focused on like the change or thinking like something's going to solve your problems, it's like, it's almost like you're focusing on how your problems are not solved, you know, too.
Yes.
So it's like, I always try to like, maybe I'm supposed to be here. Like, maybe that's why, you know, I tried to like surrender into it. And I felt like a shift of like, just be here now. And when it's time, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So
that totally happened to me when I moved out to Alberta here. So I actually moved at the end of August of 2022, but in the beginning of August 2021, I like got this big download knowing message, however you want to call it, that like, it was like, get ready in a month. You're going to get the knowing, the bell's going to go. You can take your car, you can pack one bag and you're leaving and you're going west. And I was like, yep, cool. No problem. And so I started like going through all my belongings and like getting rid of stuff I didn't need and like downsizing and doing all the things. And then next thing I know, I look around and it's like December and I'm like, what the fuck am I still doing in Manitoba? You said I was going to get you said I was going to know. And it was like, just wait, like hold my beer. And I was like, okay. Yeah. And so then at that point I was like, okay, I guess I'm here. And so I joined a jujitsu club and I like started doing things like, it's like, if I'm going to be here, I'm going to enjoy myself. And so I just started doing and trying and like committing to things in a way that I really hadn't let myself, because I was constantly in that place of like, I'm leaving. This is temporary. I'm not staying here. Like, fuck this place. I don't want anything to do with this place. This is just a moment. This is just a blip. And then as soon as I was like, whatever, like if I never go, I don't even care. It didn't happen instantly. It's like at that point, it was like January, February when I really was like, just like, okay, I guess we're here now. But then the August after that, like 8 months later, the oven timer went and I was like, okay, let's go. Handed in my notice at work the next day and was like packed up and gone in 3 weeks. Like it was done. And so because I had the year with it to kind of go through all the cycles of that.
Cool. As long as it's flowing, right?
Yeah. Sometimes I really try and make it not flow. But you know, then I eventually come around.
It's going to happen sooner or later.
Yeah. I'm curious what the biggest lesson you have gotten out of being a medium has been, like over the course of sinking into this and coming into balance with it and being able to balance it in the past, or even favorite one that sticks out. Not the biggest one.
That's a hard question. I've never been asked that. I feel like the thing is like, I would say nobody really knows what's going on. You know, like, I don't know. Like, I don't, as much as I know there's an afterlife, but I don't really understand it still. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't know. Like I start to lean more towards like Gnostic beliefs that this is kind of like some sort of lesson, or like, you know, like where, I don't know, like part of me thinks maybe we just make sense of things and we put things, you know, our ego wants sense. Like maybe it's just an experience, you know? You know, I had an experience with like some form of God that like kind of explained deja vu to me. I remember that was a pretty powerful thing, you know, like that when we're with spirit or we're with God, we're outside of time. So we've already experienced this moment, and deja vu is just us remembering. And like something with that really clicked in my head, that like, you know, being outside of time, like what if there's no time in some area of this existence, like then why does anything matter? Because it's like, it's just like a flow. It's like an experience. It's not, there's no real meaning to it. The meaning kind of comes with time, because everything is like, there's like a deadline, or there's like things you want to do, or it's like a process, or an like expansion. So it's like, if there's a place that's like outside of time, then like this is really meaningless in a way. And it doesn't have to be like a nihilist meaningless. It's more of just like, just have your range of human experiences and like enjoy it, even the ones that suck. You know, like take joy in the pain in a way. You know,
Yes.
like you're living. It's like you're having a real experience, because somewhere after this, you know, maybe it's not like that. Like maybe we just come here to have experience, but we get so wrapped up in like everybody's programming of telling like, oh, this is horrible. But like, what is really a horrible other than, you know, somebody's beliefs? Like, we don't know what real, like, you know what I'm saying? It's hard to explain, but I would say that's my biggest lesson.
I do get what you mean. I believe a similar thing, and I think I came from it from a slightly different perspective. There was something clicked a little while ago about how, like, being able to speak with humans who have passed on and you get to talk with their spirit. It's kind of like just that idea of like death means nothing literally just like hit home so hard a little while ago, of like, yeah, okay, your meat suit stops ticking, but you can still talk and function and have experiences and learn things and do things and move and all of this stuff without your body. And I mean, there's so many, like, even out of body experiences, right? Like, there's so much evidence of that even outside of death, that it was like death is literally just like brushing your teeth. I don't know. And so in that sense, like, yeah, the only meaning that we have is what we ascribe to things, and that's such a gift, because you can make the best out of literally any situation, and you can make shit out of the best situation. Yeah. And you have the power as the human being with the brain and the heart and the whatever to do that. And I don't know, it feels so warm and fuzzy to me. And I'm sure to me, it feels warm and fuzzy. Like I get to do literally whatever the fuck I want. I get to do, like, literally everything is possible. Every single thing is possible.
But you have to remember that, kind of, you know, and that's the answer to life, kind of, is like,
yes,
remembering that, you know, this is all just an experience. It's like you're not, you don't have to identify with your suffering, or you don't have to identify with all this stuff. It's just like, live it, you know. And that's like the so daily simple, practice, right? Just, you know,
yes,
it is what it is, right?
Yeah, it's casually profound, right? It's so simple, but it's also like, how do you describe it? Because everybody would describe it differently.
Yeah,
the people who want to employ that belief, right? Fabulous. Well, thank you so much for this.
Thanks for
amazing conversation. I've enjoyed this thoroughly.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome. I appreciate you very much for being open to this.
Appreciate you having me.
Yeah. So thank you to all our listeners for joining us today. Please give us a follow, give us a like on whatever platform you are watching on, listening on. It's been a pleasure having you here with us. And if you'd like to have these conversations with friends with us, please send me a message. I am Lauren on Instagram. Literally, that's my handle. I am Lauren. Or you can send us a message over at Casually Profound. So thank you very much, and we will see you next time.